Why you don't want to be Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate seems to be someone that guys my age are just like fawning over as the epitome of what it means to be a cool guy and a strong man. And I'm just here to tell you that that is so not the case. There is countless better role models for what it actually means to be a good man, a true man, a proper man. And today I'm going to cover why you don't want to be Andrew and what you should pursue instead, in my opinion. Let's get into it. So first of all, it helps to understand who the person is that we're talking about. Instead of just seeing his innumerable amount of TikTok reels and viral videos, let's actually go look into the person and understand who they are, where they came from, and how they got to where they currently are. So Andrew Tate was born to a dad that was an ex-wrestler, an ex-Air Force sergeant, and a chess champion or master. And so Andrew, growing up, became under his father's wing, specifically for chess. And his father pushed him a lot to excel in chess, and he did until he was in his teens when his parents finally split up. And then he moved to London and had no dad. He was with his mom, his sister, and his brother. So no more father figure. Keep that in mind. No father figure, and he finds wrestling or fighting, boxing, kickboxing, as his new path, his new challenge for himself. And why was he so driven by this challenge? Well, I'll let you hear from his own mouth why he pursues wrestling and fighting.
I think I fight. Do I enjoy it? No. Do I enjoy training? No. Do I enjoy cutting weight? No. Am I nervous? Yes. Do I think to myself, what am I doing? Yes. Completely. Unfortunately, it's one of those things you're either born with or you're not. And the only way I can explain it to try and make it make any sense is that if I'm not doing something which is either extremely difficult or extremely stressful, I'm in a perpetual state of crippling boredom.
So he's pursuing fighting because if he doesn't do something that's constantly stressing him, he is incredibly bored. He says bored. I would question whether boredom is really the right term to use for that, but that's why he fights. And he ends up having a very successful fighting career, and then he goes on to start a cam girl business with some of his girlfriends, and then he makes money doing that, and then he starts some casinos, and then he finally starts this Hustle University program, where he's teaching young men to be successful and a great man like him. That's the Andrew we know today, and the one who recently blew up on all the social media platforms. So why do some people my age, guys my age, look up to this guy? It has to come from a fundamental underlying belief that if I am like Andrew in some way, whether I have the girls, the cars, the guns, the money, whatever it is, if I'm like him, I will feel something. I will feel either happy or fulfilled or loved, or I will feel good. I will be successful. And what is success other than a feeling? So that has to be the underlying assumption underneath following this guy. Why would you listen to him if you didn't fundamentally believe that you had something to gain from listening to him, something to aspire towards? You wouldn't. So you have to believe that. But here's the part that I think most guys my age kind of gloss over, or they don't realize, is that just because someone has the money, the cars, the fame, etc., it by no means indicates that they are actually a happy, contented, fulfilled person. When I look at Andrew, I see someone who is doing everything he can to put on the show of being the mega icon of success as a man. But what is it actually like to be Andrew? What does he wake up and think about? How does he feel on a day-to-day basis? Is he happy? Is he at peace? Is he fulfilled with life and happy to be alive? Judging from that first video that I showed of why he fights, it doesn't quite seem like it, does it? When I look at Andrew, I see a guy who is following in his father's footsteps, trying to gain his dad's approval and love, even if it's only in his head. Who knows when the last time he talked to his dad was, what his relationship is, I have no idea. But it's pretty clear, if you look at the path that Andrew has decided to follow, and the way that he goes about his life, and the things that he believes in, it's pretty clear that he's just trying to make daddy proud. And I can tell you firsthand that as long as that is at the priority of your list, the reasons that you're doing things, you're making decisions to please, whether it be your parents, your family, your friends, etc., anyone outside of yourself, you're set up for disaster. As long as you're making these decisions based on other people's input, you are not free. I still hear my dad in the back of my head when I'm making decisions about what to pursue, what to value, what to learn. He always wanted me to learn survival skills, engineering, trades, anything that will help me survive the incoming food and economic crisis, which he believes is coming and has believed for my entire life. I still hear his voice in the back of my head when I'm deciding what classes to take. Whether it be engineering or business, I hear his voice dissuading me from finance or investing because that's all a scam. Or sneering at my interest in philosophy or psychology or these other less practical fields. I still hear it in the back of my head, and it's very tempting to let that control the decision I make. But I have to be aware, and you have to be aware as well, of who's making your decisions. Are you making them out of your own genuine intrinsic curiosities and interests, or are you trying to satisfy someone outside of yourself and gain their approval and love? If you're trying to satisfy someone outside of yourself, especially if it comes from a dad who has the same kind of personal lack of self-love, if he cannot love himself, no matter what you do, no matter how much you try to gain his approval, he will not be able to fully love you unconditionally. It just won't happen because he cannot even love himself. So you have to realize that, especially as a young man trying to decide what path should I set out on, what should I value, what should I pursue. You just can't base it off what you think is going to make your dad proud. Instead, you have to, as the Greeks said, know thyself. You have to look inside, find what it is that drives you, what you are deeply curious and passionate about. And there's a great book on this topic about how to become successful at your own game, define your own game and become successful in your own game. A book by Robert Greene called Mastery that is great for all this kind of talk. So I highly recommend you check that out if you're in a similar position of your young man or woman trying to find your path in life. I'll link that in the description as well. So here's the fundamental message, is that you cannot look at someone like Andrew Tate and just look at everything that he has, the totally external, objective image of what his life is like, and somehow use that as insight into what his personal world is like. Oftentimes those things are very, very separate. There can be a billionaire, ultra successful person who's absolutely miserable inside. They have very little, if any, correlation. So when you're looking at someone like Andrew Tate and considering whether or not to take his advice or to follow him and listen to him and pursue the same path that he did, ask yourself not just what will I gain objectively and materially by doing what he advises, but do I actually want to feel what he does on a day-to-day basis? Do I want to be Andrew Tate inside, not just on the outside? That's the fundamental question. And I don't know about you, but when I look at someone like him, I do not envy his existence whatsoever, because I see him as a caged animal, someone who is not free. He's limited by trying to gain someone like his father's approval. And that is directing his life. And he is not willing to face those internal demons and actually do the work, do what Carl Jung refers to as the shadow self. He will not investigate the shadow self and find peace through that. Instead, he is running away from it. He's distracting himself. In the same way that he talks about why he fights, he's distracting himself from this internal boredom, or I would argue perhaps self-loathing, his inability to fully love himself and accept himself. That's my opinion, and that's why I don't think that you want to be Andrew Tate. If this idea of doing the work and examining your shadow self intrigues you, then you can check out my video on what I learned from my first year in therapy at 22 years old, because that is fundamentally what therapy is doing. It's looking at this shadow self of yours and working through it to find greater peace and happiness and contentment rather than constantly distracting yourself from it. So if that interests you, I will put up a link to the video in one of these sides. And in general, if you are interested in how to live a good life and be a proper man as a young man, if you're around my age and you're thinking about these questions and trying to decide how to live your life, subscribe to this channel, because that is a lot of what I'm going to continue to explore, and I'm going to use the role models that I look up to and the things that I've learned in my own life and observing others to find out what a happy, fulfilled, genuinely true existence as a man really means and how to achieve it as well. So if that interests you, click subscribe. As always, like the video, share it with someone who I don't know. I'm already imagining the hate that I might get on this video, similar to the whole crypto thing, but whatever. If you're a huge Andrew Tate fan and you want to hate on me, go for it in the comments, let it loose. If you do have a friend that is a fan of Tate and you think could benefit from seeing a video like this, share it please. And that's it. Mahalo for watching, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you next time.